Okay, now we can focus a bit on snapping tools. So they can be located right here. And in case you don't have this tabs, just go and click on one of these icons and they should be available if by any chance you just click on them by accident. So you have snap to grids, snap to curves, snap to points, projected center, view planes, and this one is called make the selected object live. So this one we'll actually cover when we talk about retopology in a special video. And we're just going to cover these three for now because these are the ones that in most situations are going to be mostly used. So we're just going to cover the very basics of snapping here. Also, what I'm going to do is just remove this blue lines on our grid just to make it a bit easier to follow along. And also what I'm going to do is just enable our X-ray so that we can see what is going on. All right, so now what we're going to do is we're going to activate snap to grid, and it says it moves the selected item to the nearest grid intersection point. So grid intersection point is basically any point where you see the grid connecting, so here. And if we now select this cube, and if I want to snap to the grid, whatever the axis is, so not the points, not the surface, the axis is the one that's going to snap to the intersection. So if I start moving this, you will see that the axes will connect to those intersection points of the grid. So you can move this cube whatever you want to, and it will just snap to that point. Sometimes that can be very useful. If I turn it off, we'll go to snap to curves. Basically, this is the same as snap to the edges. So if I now create a clone of this cube, and I'll just scale it a bit, and let's go to the move. And if I now move it, well, this is on. So we are now enabling snap to curves. I will now try and come as close to the curve, actually the edge, as I possibly can, and start moving it. And then you will notice that it will snap. So you can move it with this little, as you can notice here, it's going to become yellow, this little circle. You just need to come and match it to the space that you want. So now you just need to match it again. And it should snap as soon as you're close. There we are. So now if you move it, you will see that it will move around that edge. And again, it's the axis is the one that it's doing the snapping. Next thing that we can do is turn this off and then enable snap to points. So points basically is the same as vertices, it's just going to snap to the vertices. So if you're close to this one or that one, you just need to hold this little circle and move it until you snap to a point. So basically this is just the basic of snapping. If we now turn the grid, there's one other thing I would like to mention, and these are default hotkeys. You have X is for grid. So if you hold X, you will see that it will snap to grid. If you hold C, it will snap to the edges like so. And if you hold V, it will snap to points. There's also one interesting thing that I would like to talk about now that we are here, is that what if we would want this point snapped to this point, so that basically we have two objects connected in the same point in space. So what we would need to do then, remember that we said that the axis is the one who's actually doing the snapping. So what would we need to do is move the axes right here. So what we can do is come here and enable edit pivot. And you will see now that the pivot, if you check the icon of our tool, you will see that it will change. And by the way, if this is too small, you can always go to plus to increase the axis or minus to decrease the axis to the side that you want. So I'll just increase it for now and go to edit pivot so that you can see the difference between how it looks edit pivot and normal pivot. And the same thing will happen if you hit D on your keyboard it will activate the same thing. So in many situations, you will use this D hotkey. So for now, I'll just set D as hotkey to modify this pivot. And now I can come in this little small area and then I can just move it around. So that just means that whatever I move it around and hit D again, this will be my new axis. All right, so now instead of eyeballing it where it is, we just need to either enable here, snap to points, or simply hold the V as a hotkey and it will immediately snap to a specific point that we wanted. And if that is what we want, we just need to hit D to confirm the operation, and now we can move it along. One other thing with the edit pivot or D hotkey is that you can move it also along the surface, and you will see that there is this letter, actually not a letter, like a small sign that says orient. And this simply means that now you can orient your axes in any direction based on the surface that you click on. It can be also the edge or it can be a point. So that's also something very interesting. The other thing is if you hold shift and click, or if you just hold shift, you will see that now it will say position, basically just short POS. So you can now go and position the axes wherever you want to. So you can position it either in center or in point or on a surface. So it will always snap in the center. Then what you can do is shift control and aim to. So basically aim to any position. So you can aim it to a point or edge or surface. So it really doesn't matter. So you can do a lot with this tool and it will help you to just snap things or objects faster together. So in this case, what we want to is just want to orient it this direction. And then I want to bring it and snap it to this point while holding V. And there we are. And then once I'm done, I'm just going to hit D. And now I can move it from this point. And again, just if I want, I can go to V to enable snap to points and snap it to this point. And yeah, so basically this is the basics of snapping. One other really important thing that I would like to mention is that let's put this to a side for now. So I'm gonna push this to a side and I wanted to show you something else. So we have here translate X, Y, and Z. So if we set this here to 0, our axis is going to be right in the middle of our grid. So if we go here to display grids, just to see our axis, close, you'll see that this is directly in the middle. And if I go to this cube now, since we played with the axis a bit, and if I go here to 0, 0, 0, 0 and hit enter, you will see that the axis is not going to be in the 0 anymore. It's now actually not in the center of our, so let me just show you the difference. So this is where the axis should be as a center. So what to do in that case? So for now, the axis has translate X, Y, and Z as a value of 1.7 instead of 0. So 0 is in the wrong place. So if we check it here, so this is not the actual 0 coordinate system. And again, to show you what I mean is that this axis, if we now put it to 0, fits perfectly to the center. And the center is your 0, 0, 0 coordinate system. So how to fix that? So let me just again come here. So basically here our 0 values are in the wrong position. Instead of being here like they should be, they're way off. So in that case, when you have a situation like this, what you need to do is we can go here and position it where it should be, even though that the values are wrong. We can go here to modify, freeze transformations, and now they will be positioned properly. So now they will actually be in a 0 coordinate system like it should. So regardless of the object, the axis is the one that counts. So just something to keep in mind. For example, if you're exporting your objects, especially for game engines or other software, it's really important that the axis is set to 0. So again, just something to keep in mind if you're playing with these settings. So yeah, I would say more or less this is it about snapping. And like I mentioned, we are going to cover one more tool, which we're going to cover in a specific video about retopology. But for now, let's close this one and let's move into the next video.